If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, so today we're going deep on Russell Brand.
Yeah, Russell Brand.
And this is going to be fun because, his career
is a lot.
It is a lot, and we're going to go through all of it. I think it's fascinating because, like our listeners, we're fascinated by how people transform in the public eye, and he's done a lot of transforming.
Yeah, and I think what makes him so interesting, too, is just like the breadth of his career. You know, he's done so many different things. Like we have stuff here that goes all the way back to like his childhood, his early years, comedy, Hollywood, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Writing, personal life, like
all of it.
It's the whole picture.
It's kind of the whole picture. Yeah. So our goal today is to kind of take you through those different phases in his life and try to figure out, you know, what was driving those changes.
Right.
We're going to talk about his background in his comedy for sure, and then his move to Hollywood, the writing and online commentary he's doing now, the relationships.
Oh, the relationships.
Yeah, and some of the more recent events.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
So Russell Brand, born in 1975 in Essex, England. And, you know, right off the bat, his early life was kind of marked by some pretty major challenges.
Yeah. I mean, you think about his parents separating, his mom battling cancer.
Right.
Like, those are some big things to deal with at a young age. And I think, you know, you kind of have to understand that when you're trying to understand him later on.
Yeah, for sure. And he also had his own personal struggles that he was going through, right?
Absolutely.
You know, bulimia as a teenager and later on heroin addiction.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how he even got through all of that.
It really is. Like, those are some serious obstacles to overcome.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, how much of those struggles ended up influencing his art later on.
I think that it probably had a huge impact. Yeah. You know, you can see how going through those kinds of things could make you intense, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe even make you want to face tough topics head on, which he definitely does in his comedy and even later in his commentary.
Totally.
Yeah. But so even with all that going on, he was still drawn to performing from an early age.
Oh, yeah. He got into the Italia Conti Academy of Theater Arts, which is like...
Yeah, I think like a really fancy drama school.
Yeah.
Like the top tier in the UK, like the Gilliard of Britain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But his time there was a little rocky.
Yeah, it wasn't all smooth sailing there.
No.
He ended up getting expelled.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because of his issues with drugs and attendance.
Oh, really?
So, you know, it kind of shows how much those early struggles were affecting his life.
Yeah.
But his passion for performing didn't go away.
Right.
And he ended up moving into stand-up comedy in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and that's really when his comedic voice started to develop.
Yeah.
And it was unique right from the start. Like, so flamboyant, sharp wit.
Oh, yeah.
Not afraid of any controversial topic.
Oh, not at all.
He really stood out from everyone else in the comedy scene.
Absolutely.
And I wonder, like, was all that outrageousness just for shock value, or was it...
That's a good question.
Was he trying to say something deeper with those early controversial topics?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about that because while the shock value obviously got people's attention,
right,
I think he was also using humor to kind of poke at societal norms.
Oh, for sure.
You know, maybe even try to turn them upside down a little bit. And that actually connects with some of the stuff he talks about directly later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, around this time, he also tried his hand at being a video journalist for MTV.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty short-lived, though.
Short-lived and eventful, I think is what they said.
Eventful's a good word for it.
I think so, too.
But, you know, even though those early TV gigs were brief, it seems like they kind of paved the way for his big break in the UK.
Yeah. Big Brother's Big Mouth.
Yeah, that show was huge.
It was huge, and that's where he really connected with a big audience, like a mainstream audience.
Yeah, it was a spin-off show, but it was super popular, and it gave him a platform to reach a massive audience with his unique style of commentary. And, it really made him a household name.
Yeah, it did.
And from there, he got more opportunities to host talk shows and radio programs,
right,
which really solidified his place as like a major media personality in the UK by the mid-2000s.
Okay, so he's killing it in the UK. What brings him to Hollywood and to that level of success?
Well, his big break internationally came in 2008 with the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yes.
And it was his role as Aldous Snow.
Aldous Snow.
That rock star character that really grabbed everyone's attention worldwide.
It was magnetic.
Oh my gosh, so magnetic.
That character was so magnetic, and it was perfect for him.
Yeah, it was like the perfect showcase for his comedic talent.
Yeah.
And that unique persona he had built up.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone else playing that role.
No, me either.
And that movie really opened doors for him in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, it was a turning point for sure.
It was a huge turning point.
Yeah, and after Forgetting Sarah Marshall, he just kept popping up in all these different films. Like Bedtime Stories. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
He played the hotel handyman.
Yeah.
And then he got to play Aldous Snow again in the spinoff Get Him to the Greek.
Oh, yeah.
But this time he was the main character.
Yeah, and I think Get Him to the Greek really solidified his comedic presence in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But he wasn't just doing those kinds of movies. He was also doing voice work for some big animation franchises.
That's right. He voiced Dr. Nefario in the Despicable Me movies.
Yeah.
And that franchise is huge. It's been going on for years.
It's huge.
And, it shows how he can connect with a whole different audience, too.
Right.
The kids love him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He also had a voice role in Hop, another animated film.
Right.
But, he didn't just stick to supporting roles. He also took on some lead roles in live-action films, like the remake of Arthur.
Oh, yeah.
Where he played that rich, irresponsible playboy.
Yeah, which is a pretty big departure from some of his earlier, more outrageous characters. Do you think that was him trying to branch out or just the kinds of roles he was offered?
I think it was probably a bit of both,
Yeah.
Playing more traditional lead role, like Arthur showed that he could do more than just comedy.
Mm-hmm.
He could handle those kinds of roles too. And then he was also in Rock of Ages.
Oh, yeah.
That musical comedy. And more recently in Death on the Nile, that Agatha Christie mystery film.
Which is so interesting.
Yeah, and that just shows his versatility even more.
Yeah.
Like he's not just a comedic actor.
Not at all.
He can really do different genres.
So while his Hollywood career is bling, he's also writing.
Yeah, his memoir, My Bookie Wook, came out around this time.
Yeah.
And it was a huge hit in the UK.
Huge hit.
Yeah, critically acclaimed bestseller.
And it was really raw.
Oh, yeah.
And honest, the way he talked about his addiction and fame, and it gave readers like a much more personal look at his life.
Yeah, for sure. It went beyond the public persona that people saw.
Totally. And then he followed that up with Bookie Wook 2. This time it's personal in 2010. But then his writing starts to shift a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, over time, you can see a real change in what he's interested in.
Right.
Like books like Revolution in 2014 and Recovery, Freedom from Our Addictions in 2017.
Those are big topics.
They are. And, Revolution, he's critiquing the political and economic systems that we have.
Right.
And he's arguing for like a more fundamental societal change.
Yeah.
Like a real overhaul.
Yeah.
And then Recovery. You can see how his struggles with addiction and his recovery would lead him to be interested in self-help and, these bigger societal cures that he talks about in the book.
Absolutely. And that shift in his writing really goes hand in hand with his growing presence online, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like his YouTube channel and podcast become these platforms for him to discuss current events and spirituality. And he often presents a more critical or alternative viewpoint.
Yeah.
And I wonder, given his earlier mainstream success that was built on being outrageous, was this move online a way for him to stay relevant by appealing to a different kind of audience?
That's an interesting thought, because his online stuff really digs into topics like alternative health, conspiracy theories, criticisms of the mainstream media.
Right.
And he's built a pretty dedicated following.
He has.
And I think moving online gave him more control over his message.
For sure.
he could connect with his audience directly.
Right.
Which is different from the more controlled world of TV and film.
For sure. And speaking of control, let's move on to his personal life, which has been very much in the public eye.
Yeah.
His marriage to Katy Perry was a big story.
Oh, it was huge. They met in 2009 when she had a cameo in Get Him to the Greek.
Right.
And they started dating pretty soon after that.
Yeah, and then their engagement in December of 2009 during a trip to India was all over the news.
It was.
And their wedding was a spectacle. A traditional Hindu ceremony in India in October 2010.
Yeah, it seemed like such a big deal.
It did.
It was like a symbol of these two huge stars with their contrasting personalities coming together.
It did feel symbolic in a way.
Yeah.
But it was short-lived, right?
Yeah. Sadly, it was only 14 months later in December 2011 that Brand announced their divorce.
Yeah.
Citing irreconcilable differences.
And even the divorce itself was very public.
Oh,
with Katy Perry revealing that he told her about it through a text message.
yeah.
That seems pretty abrupt.
It does?
And impersonal for such a high-profile relationship.
Yeah. I mean, you have to wonder what led to such a quick split.
Yeah. What do you think happened?
Well, there was a lot of speculation at the time.
Right.
And both Brand and Perry have talked about the pressures of fame.
Right.
And their busy careers.
Right.
Which often clashed.
Yeah, he talked about how hard it was to deal with fame, and she was on tour all the time.
Yeah, and it was all captured in Perry's documentary, Katy Perry,
Yeah.
Pardon Me, which came out in 2012.
Yeah.
And that gave her perspective on the relationship and the breakup.
Yeah, so after his divorce from Katy Perry, he eventually reconnected with Laura Gallagher, and their relationship seems very different.
Yeah, it does. They actually dated briefly back in 2007.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before he was with Perry. And Laura Gallagher, for those who don't know, she's a British illustrator and author.
Right.
And she's from a pretty well-known family.
Yeah.
Her father is Bernard Gallagher, the Scottish golfer.
Oh, wow.
And her sister is Kirsty Gallagher, the sports presenter.
Okay, so they had some history before they got back together in 2015.
Right.
And they both had gone through some heartbreak before reconnecting. And this time, it seems like their relationship was much more grounded and private.
It does.
So what do you make of this shift to a more traditional family life?
Well, Laura Gallagher said that when they reconnected, Brand was in a different place.
Right.
And they built their relationship slowly, focusing on trust and a deeper connection.
Yeah.
And they got married in August 2017 in a church ceremony near their home.
Okay, and they seem very focused on family life.
Oh, absolutely. And Laura's an author, too. She's written books like The Joy Journal for Grown-Ups.
That's great.
Yeah, they have 3 children together. Daughters, Mabel and Peggy, born in 2016 and 2018, and a son who was born in 2023.
Wow.
And Brand has talked a lot about the positive influence his wife and kids have had on him.
Yeah.
And it really does seem like he's embraced a more settled, family-oriented life.
Which is a big change from his earlier image.
It is. It's pretty stark contrast to the flamboyant, controversial figure he used to be.
It really is. But then more recently, he's been in the news for some pretty serious allegations.
Yeah, in 2023, these allegations of sexual assault against him surfaced.
Right.
And it's important to acknowledge how serious these allegations are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as we know, these accusations have had some big consequences, like his content being removed from certain platforms and a lot of public scrutiny.
Yeah, and as of right now, April 2025, the legal issues around these allegations are still ongoing.
That's right.
And it's a reminder that his story isn't over yet.
Yeah, it's still unfolding.
And these new developments add a whole other layer of complexity to how we see him.
They really do.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you rethink his whole journey.
Yeah, so we've gone through a lot with Russell Brand.
We have?
From his tough early years and his start in comedy to becoming a global star in Hollywood.
Yeah.
To exploring deeper intellectual and social ideas.
Right.
And his very public relationships, the highs and lows.
Yeah, from the huge wedding with Katy Perry to his current family life with Laura Gallagher.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride.
It has. He's always been someone who gets people talking.
He does.
And sparks debate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the different chapters of his life, from battling addiction to becoming this huge celebrity and then shifting focus to online commentary and family life, it all paints a picture of a man who's gone through some major personal and professional changes.
Absolutely. And as we've talked about the recent controversies and the legal stuff that's still going on,
right,
it shows that his story isn't finished.
No, it's not.
And it makes us question everything about his journey.
It really does. It's like every time you think you know him, something else happens.
Exactly. And it makes you think about fame and personal growth.
Yeah.
And how hard it is to navigate public life.
It's tough.
Especially in today's crazy media landscape.
It's definitely something to think about.
It is. So for our listeners out there, I want you to think about this.
Yeah.
Given all the changes Russell Brand has gone through and how the public's view of him keeps changing.
Yeah.
What does his journey tell us about fame?
Yeah.
What does it tell us about how people grow and change in the public eye, and how incredibly difficult it is to live your life in the public eye, especially today, when everything moves so fast.
Especially today, it's a whole different ballgame.
It really is a lot to think about.
A lot to think about.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.